healthcare transfers. How does your system work without them? Like, is it responsible to leave that door open in any way?
How does that woman have a job on a national news broadcast? Good morning. It's John. Welcome to the channel. Great to have you along today. 4:37 a.m. I've been up since 2, getting these clips together today. It's May the 9th. I've got my big blue mug of coffee, and yeah, this is going to be maybe a little controversial, but I don't care. Vassy Kapelos, this interview with Danielle Smith is a frigging train wreck. Totally unprepared. I just don't get it. I saw clips of this yesterday and I just shook my head in disbelief that she is so freaking clueless. She even says in this interview she's lived in Alberta for 5 years and she doesn't understand anything that's going on. I don't even think she watched Danielle Smith's speech the other day, because a lot of the answers to what she asked here were in her speech. She should know better. Now you're going to say, John, who are you to critique this woman who's worked her way up to the top of news broadcasting at CTV in Canada? Well, I used to do this for a job for 35 years. I did it all. I was a disc jockey. I was a news person. I was a sports broadcaster. I did it all. I had my own radio program where I spoke to musicians, I spoke to astronauts, I spoke to politicians. Dalton McGuinty, Stephen Harper, Jack Layton, Elizabeth May, Justin Trudeau. There's an interview with Trudeau on my channel if you want to go back and watch it. So I have a little bit of experience here. It's disgraceful. And here's the thing. The things that Kapelos, Vashy says, get echoed on X, but you don't hear the actual answer. One of which popped up this morning. How can Alberta be so ungrateful to the rest of Canada? Oil production is up. How dare you want to leave the country? Didn't listen to Danielle Smith's answer. I'm going to play that for you. So this interview is about 14 minutes long. I think she was awful in this. And she seems condescending at times, which is ridiculous. Watch the whole thing. I'll put a link in the description. Give them some hits. So she talks a little bit about dealing with Carney. So Danielle Smith is asked about that. They talk about how Danielle Smith explains it this way. Albertans are fearful of Canada like Canada is fearful of the United States. Interesting way of putting it. She says the Citizens Initiative will allow citizens to have a voice in our province, which could include separation. And then she's asked about pursuing separation if there is a yes vote here. So this is what Vashy says to Danielle Smith. She's asked a couple of times. And then Vashy gets her breaking news. It pops up along the bottom. She asks her, would you allow separation if there is a yes vote? And this is what Danielle Smith had to say.
Just to be clear to Canadians who are watching in Alberta and outside Alberta, if the citizens of your province vote to separate, are you going to pursue that?
What I have said is that I will respect the outcome of citizen-initiated referenda, and that's why it's my job to make sure it doesn't get to that point. I want Canada to be strong and united, and for provincial jurisdiction to be respected, and that's what I'll be working towards.
You see, Vashy, there's this thing called the Clarity Act. You might want to read it sometime. It's not up to the Premier to decide whether she will allow separation if there is a vote for separation in Alberta. The Clarity Act kind of lays out the ground rules. Basically, you need a clear question and a clear majority. Unfortunately, the federal government has far too much control in this situation, but the Clarity Act does exist. And you have to understand, if this happens, the federal government, provincial governments, and native groups, Aboriginal groups, have to, by law, negotiate with the province that chooses to separate. Then she goes on, and this is the thing that really blew me away, was she asks about social services and healthcare, and, basically says, don't you think you should be more open with Albertans? What's going to happen if you leave? And now, just keep in mind, I have edited this into 2 little clips. I haven't taken out any of the context. Feel free to watch the video, judge for yourself, link in the description.
But shouldn't you be honest with them about what it would mean if they were to vote yes, and now that you've opened the door to following their instruction, what that would mean for their social services, for their health care, for a whole host of things?
I didn't include the Premier's answer because basically it is, and not in these words, Vashy, you're getting ahead of your skis here. It hasn't happened yet, and that was her answer. But you've seen this map on the screen, have you not? 100 times? I have. Alberta sends so much money out east, if we could keep it, that would be great. We're running a $5 billion deficit in Alberta this year, and we still have to ship money out to big provinces out east. Most of it goes to Quebec. And it's like Vashy didn't even watch Danielle Smith's speech the other day. It was near the beginning when Danielle Smith had this to say.
Our province has contributed hundreds of billions of dollars more to the federal treasury for use in other parts of the country than will ever receive back in benefits.
Just imagine how great things would be if we could just keep our money here in Alberta instead of shipping it off to ungrateful Canada and Quebec that doesn't want our pipelines. And here's a little bit of a tidbit for you. Canada spends over $1 billion a week servicing our debt, which is more than is spent on healthcare for the whole country. That's what government in the government of Canada has done. So up next, Vashy, clueless as can be, starts going on about how can you be so ungrateful? How can you be so upset at the federal government? Oil production is up, and Danielle Smith has to straighten her out on that one as well.
From March 2025 to March 2024, Alberta produced 20.6 million cubic meters of oil, 3.6% higher year over year. The regulator's website in 2023, the most recent finding they could produce, said crude oil production continued to rise in that year, reaching an 8-year high. How is that evidence of destructive policy?
Well, I can tell you that we've had at least $175 billion worth of projects that have been canceled because of the actions of the federal government. Some direct, like their direct cancellation of Northern Gateway, which had been fully permitted. Some because of interference, like Energy East, which couldn't see the way through their new process to a completion. Same with Tex Frontier Mine. And it's been case after case after case of the federal government creating uncertainty. Imagine where we would be if we had all of those LNG projects that have been proposed and all of those energy projects that have been proposed, constructed over the past 10 years. Now we actually would have access to international markets. We really would be able to be less reliant on a single customer.
Imagine, Vashy, if Alberta could have had $175 billion of investment over the last 10 years that's been lost because of the Liberal government. The question you need to be asking, if Alberta leaves, how is Canada going to survive without us? And here's the other thing you need to understand. If you watched her speech the other day, she laid it out quite clearly that your country of Canada has lost out in a big way as well. Listen to this.
This onslaught of anti-energy, anti-agriculture, and anti-resource development policies have scared away global investments to the tune of $500 billion, driving those investments and jobs out of Alberta and Canada to much more attractive investment climates in the United States, Asia, and the Middle East.
So it's been pretty embarrassing all the way through this interview, and then Vashy brings out this one. And this is the kind of stuff and the kind of nonsense that she and other people who work in media in Canada spread around, and I see it on X all the time. Alberta, you're a bunch of ungrateful traitors. Canada bought you a pipeline. Watch.
They did build TMX with $34 billion of taxpayer money from across the country, which does greatly benefit your province. So again, is it fair to frame it as everything they've done has hurt Alberta when production is up and there is a pipeline to Tidewater?
That Trans Mountain pipeline could have been built for a fraction of the cost if it had been in the private sector. I don't think it's a victory that that taxpayers had to fork over 5 times the amount because the federal government had created so much uncertainty. That was the only way to get it built. I'm glad it's built, but you know what? We could get a whole lot more built if they would just create the kind of an investment environment that would attract those private sector dollars.
A great answer from the Premier. Keith Wilson, the lawyer, you've probably seen him a number of times. He talks about the separatist movement here in Alberta. He puts it quite bluntly. TMX should have cost taxpayers $0. But because of incompetence of the Liberal Party, cost overrun after cost overrun, it's now, at $34 billion of your money. And think ahead here, folks. This is Mark Carney's housing program. This is what's going to happen with it. It won't solve the housing crisis. It's going to cost you way too much money. And Mark Carney and his friends are going to get rich on your tax dollars. Just think about that. An absolute slaughter of Vassy Kapelos by Danielle Smith. Masterclass by her. She's the best at this I have ever seen. But Vassy Kapelos, how the hell is she heading up a national news program? I just don't get it. She's seeming totally unprepared. Just so bad. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you liked the video. It's just amazing. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell for notifications. Share it if you like it. And I'll see you on the next one.